Hello, and thank you so much for watching 1851 Franchises, Top Franchise Brokers of 2023. I'm Jeff Dwyer, and today I'm joined by John Armstrong of FranNet. John, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Jeff. Thanks for the award. Thank you so much.
Of course. So we were just talking a little bit, just kind of introducing you. Again, this conversation was a couple of weeks in the making, so thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I'd love to dive right into the questions. John, so can you just sort of tell me what makes you successful as a franchise broker?
I love it. Great question. So it's a few different things to me, Jeff, but I think the crux of it is understanding the client. What are they looking for? Why do they want to do it? What are their goals? What are their skills? What are their preferences? You have to really understand your client first and foremost, and that comes through two things. First, knowing what questions to ask, right? You can't don't take surface answers. Don't just say whatever it is. You've got to know what questions to ask, but just as importantly, you have to listen. It's not just listening to respond, it's active listening to understand them. And then once you understand the client and what they're looking for and who they are and everything about them, then you need to know the inventory, our Zor partners, and you need to know them in and out so you can make that match. It's more complicated than people think. So it's those things that really come together. But something else is not being afraid to say no to the wrong deal, right? You have to know when to say, hey, this isn't right. Like, one, don't even look into it. Or I have two clients with deals I'm not sure they should go through, and I've made that clear to the franchisor and the client. So you've got to know when to say no to the wrong deal too, right? So it's listening, understanding, helping the client through, and also saying no. I think those are kind of some keys to success for me, Jeff.
Well said. And I think that just sort of you mentioning that, it seems like from an outsider's perspective, you may not understand that, right? As an outsider, knowing when to say no, because you will see when something isn't a good fit, when people, if the experience doesn't match or whatever, because I'm sure there are tons of different factors that play into that decision, right? But knowing when to say no is just so important, and having that communication every step of the way and every step of the process is vital to creating, satisfaction in the end result.
I tell all my clients, no is a very valid answer at any time.
Excellent.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
That is perfect advice. But what other advice would you have for someone who may be considering becoming a franchise owner for the very first time?
Good question. Number one, do your due diligence. Talk to franchisees. That's so underrated. And I would talk to my clients, talk to 8, 10, 12 franchisees, one-on-one. I love spend-a-days. I love when clients get in the car, get in the train, or fly, and they go live a day in a life, and they do that with a few franchisees. In my experience, they see themselves in it, or they see themselves right out of it. Either one is fine. I also want people to understand really what they're getting into. I want happy franchisees. And to me, happiness is expectations meeting reality. So I need to get those realities set. And that's kind of that expectations meeting that reality. And that's through speaking with franchisees. And that's everything. Some people think franchising is easy. It's not. You're starting a business, right? You get a playbook, a script you get to follow, but you're still starting a business. It's still a lot of work, grit, persistence. You've got to keep going at it. And so I would try to make sure my clients understand that. And so they know what they're getting into, and then they do the due diligence. So if they do sign that agreement, they know not exactly what to expect. They have good expectations of what to expect when they become a franchisee. So to me, it's all about due diligence. Take your time. It's not just the FDD or what the Zor says. It's what franchisees say. Get an attorney, get an accountant, put the whole picture together, but take your time and do the due diligence. And I think that is key and is what sets people up for success moving forward.
Well said. And it's understanding, every aspect of the business, and not just being in love with the product or the brand, but also being in love with the role as an owner. Right?
That's the most important thing. I tell my clients, listen, what the business does day to day might not be what you're doing day to day. Understand the owner's role and make sure that owner's role aligns to what you want to do day to day, applies to your skills, applies to your preferences. And just as importantly, this franchise is going to allow you to achieve your goals. Because if it's not going to take you to where you want to go, it's probably not the right choice. You're not setting yourself up for happiness down the line. So make sure it is a vehicle to get you to where you want. I completely agree with that. I have a client who just signed with CMIT, and CMIT Solutions, it's a little bit of a sales role. It's not sales was new to him. So we really had to kind of hammer home is like, can you do that? Can you do that? And he did. By the time we went through the due diligence, he felt very comfortable on that front, Jeff.
Excellent. So sort of branching off of, happiness and finding that satisfaction just, for your clients and for yourself and for your franchise, the franchisors, the prospective franchisees. But what does winning look like for you?
Freedom of time, man. I want to control my calendar. Right? There's a money aspect that times into that. I can control that calendar. Don't get me wrong, but if I want to go mountain biking, I can go mountain biking. If I want to take my dog for a hike, I can go for a hike. It's owning my time. That's actually why I like being a franchise broker, Jeff, is helping my clients understand that there's a world away from corporate America. I'm not saying it's easier. I always tell my clients, pick your headaches. It's just different set of headaches on one set. But you get that freedom as an opportunity. And I think a lot of my clients would agree is like that freedom is invaluable. And so to me, that's winning, man, is I control my calendar. I control my time. I can do what I want when I want. And I'll do that all day, every day. That's my winning to me every day.
Terrific. So you work with plenty of different clients, right? But for franchisors specifically, what advice would you have for franchisors who may want your help in awarding new franchisees?
So I'd always say it is quality, not quantity. You want the right franchisees. Not everyone, the right franchisees. Everything in franchise sales, franchise development, whatever you want to call it, is about validation. What are my clients going to hear when they call people out of the FDD, reach out to them, and what are they going to hear? The better your validation is, the easier everything's going to go. It doesn't need to be perfect, right? There's always going to be the bottom third, the middle third, top third. I want my clients to understand that. We want that middle third to be happy. Obviously, the top third's happy. So it's all about validation. Make sure your franchisees are getting to where they want to be, and help them and support them and do what you can. That's everything. And so it's down to validation. Push that on the franchisors as best we can, is make sure the validation is on point. That's really key. It's about quality, not quantity, and making sure the franchisees are just happy. All right. Everyone's got a different definition of happiness, but make sure they're happy. And then have that come through in the calls with the clients. It's everything. It's
so important, quality over quantity. And again, you emphasized it, but I don't think it can be understated or overstated, right? It is validation. Your franchisees are going to be your best salespeople.
Yep. My clients are going to call them randomly out of the FDD. What's going to happen, right? And they know not everyone's going to be happy. 30+% they know is the bottom. We talked about that before. They do that, but they know overall it needs to be positive and happy, and people feel supported, helped, on track. A franchisor that's willing to work with them. Validation is key. I mean, that's what sells franchises, if you ask me, is how are those franchisees doing?
If they're happy, they're going to be yelling from the rooftops about it.
They're going to be your best advocates.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, Jeff.
So we mentioned communication just briefly earlier, but how can franchisors better communicate with you?
So it's all three: text, email, phone calls. I think it's important to know when to apply each situation. Text, I got a call scheduled. We're waiting for this legal review. Something quick, easy, move on. Phone calls when it's important. Know when to pick up the phone, when we have to hammer out an issue. Is there something in the legal review that we need to work out? Is there, hey, I need to get this franchisee on the phone for the client? Or, just emails, quick updates. You need some type of communication. Zero is like a disaster. All right? If we're not going back and forth, the deal's never going to happen. And it's knowing when to do it. And then from there, what mode of communication. But I'd probably say with my franchise partners, it's all three. We might be texting on a legal review, especially if it's after hours. But then we might talk the next day, be like, hey, what are the most important points we got to get across the finish line on this legal review, or whatever it is, or whatever point we're dealing with. But it's all three, and knowing when to do it. Silence is good luck getting that deal done, is how I would describe it at that point. Silence never works, but there's no right or wrong formula. And every development rep I work with is a different style. Some guys I've been working with for 10, 12 years, we kind of have a good rapport, and we know what we're doing. Newer people are a little bit different, talking a little bit more, but we don't need to talk at every step too. I don't need a constant, this call scheduled. We did that. I can handle that when it's important. Learn to get on the phone with us and talk. So.
Excellent. Yeah. I mean, you don't not necessarily have to talk every single step through the process, but you need to know what's going on at the very least.
Don't be needy. Don't be a needy broker that needs all those updates, right? Know when to get involved and when they need the help. I spend a lot of time with my clients. I usually know more than the Zor at some point. And then it's like, okay, what's important? Let's get on the call.
Excellent. Well, John, that is all the time we have for today. This was extremely insightful. So I wanted to say thank you so much again for taking the time to chat with me, and a big congratulations on your nomination as a top franchise broker.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the nomination. It's great getting to meet you.
You as well. Thanks so much. Take care.